Hi, my friends from around the globe. Welcome to season number 5 of Gripsport Latino. I had the chance to virtually fly to Australia to meet the rising gripsport and armlifting star Henry Mullet. On this interview, we could discuss his background in sports, what does he do for a living, how did he discover grip training, and what is he going to do to climb to the top of the sport as an all-arounder athlete. If you like the Gripsport Latino project, follow us on Spotify and YouTube so I can reach more people and help Gripsport grow and go to places of the world that haven't tried this sport yet. And now, enjoy this episode. Welcome everyone to another episode of Gripsport Latino. Henry, I am super honored to have you here today. How are you today, my friend?
Very good. Thank you for having me. I've watched a few of your episodes and certainly familiar, your coverage across a lot of people. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Of course, I am super happy to have another Australian champion here on the podcast. One thing that I almost always do is to ask the guest to introduce himself. So Henry, what can you tell me about you to get things started?
Sure. So yeah, Henry, my last name's Mullet. I live in Australia in a small town in Victoria called Bairnsdale, sort of a country town. I'm 33, got a wife and 3 kids, and been into strength sports off and on for a little while. Got a background, a bit of arm wrestling, a little bit of weightlifting, and for the last sort of 6 to 8 months, I've been focused just on grip and been loving it, and been in 2 competitions now and had a great time and managed to win one of them.
Excellent. Henry, I wanted to know, what do you do for a living?
I work as a fitter and turner, so like a machinist or a workplace fitter. So we fix things. Typically, something's always breaking somewhere in a factory or on a machine. So we're fixing things all the time. My background prior to that was actually in civil construction, a lot of concrete, a lot of steel fixing, a lot of sort of manual labor work. But more recently, no, I've done an apprenticeship and now as a fitter and turner.
Perfect. And Henry, well, I knew about you in my episode with Isaac Pitt. He told me about you reaching out, like, I'm not sure if you reach out to him, but he told me, well, first that you were interested in having grippers,
Yes.
in doing grippers in any competition, which called my attention from the very first moment, because I am super into grippers, and also that
Yep.
you were super big and strong. So I want to know how tall and how heavy you are.
Metric, I would do 150 kilograms is my body weight typically, and 195 centimeters.
Wow, super. You sound like a strongman competitor. That's the first thing I thought when I saw your posts. It's like, wow, man, maybe he's one of the Australia's strongest men.
I never went down that path. It would have been really, really interesting, but with the work and everything I did, I kind of never had the chance to focus on it. And I've followed it a little bit here and now. I do like the international strongman competition. Certainly follow that scene a little bit, but I never found myself in it. It's a very difficult sport to get into and be dedicated to. And also it's a bit tricky to train for too. We don't have a lot of gyms, at least where I am, that can sort of allow you to do that stuff. But I certainly love and respect the strongman community. They're certainly amazing what they can do, but never found myself going down that path. But even though I might have done okay, you never know.
I want to cover a little of your sports career. Like, which sports did you practice or play before getting into the grip?
I don't have an athletic background at all. I did a lot of sports when I was a child. I tried a lot of sports, but never stuck with any of them. I just never really found myself getting into sort of athletics or any sports that sort of required sort of commitment as a team or an individual. I kind of just found myself getting into work early, and that sort of took priority. But Australian rules football is huge over here in Victoria and Australia, obviously, but I never really found myself playing that. That's a typical game to play, obviously, as you grow up as a child, but I never really liked that. So realistically, no, my background in sports is very, very limited. I've never actually gotten into any sports whatsoever. I've, like I said, here and there in my adult life, I've done a bit of weightlifting, sort of basic strength training, but nothing ever for more than sort of a 6 month period or so. I've kind of always, something's changed. Life's changed in a certain way, and I've never prioritized it. But no, I don't have an athletic background actually. No.
I was watching your Instagram and I saw some really like pro arm wrestling clips, like with a good uniform and pulling with big guys. How was your like your arm
I did.
wrestling stage, so to speak?
Sure. So I back in 2019, I found myself looking towards trying to get into sort of some training, and I always liked arm wrestling. It's always been a fun thing to do growing up, and with friends, obviously. And everybody thinks because you're a big guy, there was to arm wrestle you. So plenty of arm wrestles in pubs and whatnot, and I've typically won many of them. So I got into sort of strength training in 2019, and then I found myself looking around to see what there was available as far as a club, because I knew arm wrestling was a thing as far as a sport and knew some of the big names, but didn't really know much more about it and never done it on a table or anything like that. So I found a club where I was living at the time, which was Adelaide in South Australia, and really good club, small club, tight knit, and a good bunch of guys who were very strong. And I sort of started off there and really loved it. It was good fun. I started training for that, and then the video you're referring to was my first. I think it was an amateur competition. It was in Queensland, Australia, and I went up there for that, and that was something else. That was super fun. I would have stayed with arm wrestling, a fair bit longer, I think. I did for about 6 months, maybe a little longer. But during where I was living in Melbourne at the time, COVID really took a huge impact on that city and shut a lot of things down. So I never had a chance to sort of catch up with the club on a regular basis. And then I kind of dropped off the bandwagon for training. And with arm wrestling, it's so important to train with people. You can only train so much with weights and cables and machines, but it's unfortunately something that I never got the chance to sort of pursue in a way that I might have liked to over a longer period of time. But for the brief time that I was arm wrestling, it was really, really good. It was a great sport, great bunch of people who were in it. I actually did thoroughly enjoy that, and yeah.
And would you consider like eventually going back into arm wrestling, like considering that you are getting super strong hands and doing strength sports right now?
I wouldn't say no, but it's like I said, because of where I live, it's in a country town. Arm wrestling's a bit tricky to sort of catch up with people. It's something I think I'd like to go and see, and maybe not join a club, but go and see some people at a club one day and have some fun. But I can't see myself getting back into it. It's you got to be very committed, as with any sports particularly, but arm wrestling takes a lot of time, and it does carry risk as well. A lot, like other sports. Grip is probably one of the sports I've found that is lower on the risk scale, but arm wrestling is just really, really fun. And it's when you're versing somebody versus lifting weights, it's very fun and rewarding to try and win. And the technique in arm wrestling was really interesting. That was a massive part as to why I was so interested in it, because the technique's so important, more so than you've kind of realized when you first look at arm wrestling, at least when I did. And I really found myself liking the journey behind understanding the technique and getting better at using that. And also the strength part too was always fun. But maybe, I don't know. I think I might randomly enter an amateur competition one day again if I find it lines up with where I'm going to be or something. I think that'd be fun. So never say never.
Excellent. And after like doing like a hiatus or pause in COVID, uh, which sports did you like practice? Like when the lockdown stopped, how was that?
I really started just doing, because I was arm wrestling then and catching up with some people, that sort of just got shut off completely. So it went all inside training, and I got a few bits of equipment to help me train at home. And then I found myself doing a bit of grip at the same time because I liked grip. I got introduced to grip through grippers. I've liked the idea of, heavy grippers, and found the captains of crush, like so many of us have who've entered the grip sport. So during that time when I was arm wrestling, I enjoyed using the grippers and getting a bit stronger at that, because it's such an important feature to have as an arm wrestler. strong hands, strong fingers, that I found them as a good tool to somewhat train for it. And I probably started doing a little bit more grip training then when I was doing the arm wrestling training, because it was all just weight based. And a lot of the handles and things you use for arm wrestling training carry over to the grip world, thick handles, rolling handles. So naturally you are training your grip in a certain way as well. So it just really, I started focusing on that. And then unfortunately during 2020, I moved out of Melbourne and went out to the country where I live now and had our second child. So that really put all my weightlifting and everything on the back burner for a while until I picked it up this year. But yeah, sort of things went quiet. COVID hit and everything kind of changed.
And how did you find out about the grippers? Did you knew before doing arm wrestling, or was like a social media thing? How did you find out about it?
I think I might have noticed it through arm wrestling. I think, and everyone's seen the grippers that you know are probably around most households, the little ones with the foam handles and the small spring, and you kind of have fun with those. I've seen the adjustable ones before as well, and I looked into it, and obviously everybody who looks into it finds Captains of Crush, and they were a bit outside the price range. They're a bit expensive. At least in Australia, they're not super cheap or easy to get. So I found myself getting into some of the cheaper Chinese ones, and I had fun with those. And really, the quality on those is nowhere near of what it is when of Captains of Crush or any of those name brand ones. And then I found myself in the gym one day, and he had the full set of Captains of Crush, and which was quite exciting because I'd never seen them in person before. I only had some cheaper ones, and managed to close the 3 in that set. And I thought, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll get a few of these Captains of Crushes and try and train for it. And that became slight bit of motivation to just train for them. But they've always just been a bit of a tool. I've never trained them dedicatedly.
But wait, did you manage to close the number 3 the first time?
Yes.
The first time you see one? Wow, that's
the first
huge.
time I saw the Captains of Crush. Yeah, and I don't know. It might have been an easy 3. I don't know, but it was
I think here in Chile, the heaviest first timer close that I have seen, it's like a 2.5 rated, like 119. That's the heaviest I seen, like the first time. But those were it's a friend of mine, Pablo. He's like 180 centimeters and 77 kilograms. So it's not like a super tall and big profile, because maybe if we were running into bigger guys, maybe they will have like a better luck. But yeah, I think it's impressive. At 3 on the first time, it's like, wow. And
there's a bit of luck. I mean, as you know, with the grippers, they are very technical. And once you get the technique, some people can instantly go to the next one. But having larger hands really helps with grippers, I think. They don't suit everybody. And I worked out a little bit of technique just playing around with the other ones. And there's a lot of information online. So having a bit of technique, a little bit of experience with the grippers I had, put me in a good position to get it closed when I saw the actual Captains of Crush, the legitimate ones.
And from being into the grippers, how did you find out about Gripsport?
I didn't actually look into Gripsport much then. I knew I did a little bit, and I found out that there were handles to buy. Obviously, there's a few shops who sell handles to the grip community and also the arm wrestling community, because there's such a heavy crossover. But I never found myself looking at the people and the grip lifting. I saw a few videos and thought it was pretty cool, seeing what people were doing, and it wasn't very big in Australia. I mean, it still isn't. It's a growing sport, but this was 4 years ago, and there really wasn't much happening in Australia, and I don't even know if there'd been a competition then. So I really only sort of got into the grip sort of as far as the grip competitions this year, when I kind of looked into it. And Isaac, I'd never met or spoken to Isaac, and saw that he was hosting the first Australian Championships, and I had about 10 weeks to train, and then I thought, no, bugger it, I'll give this a crack, and entered that one. And since then I've been hooked.
So before your first competition, the Australian Grip Championship, you never tried the tools of the competition, in example, like the little horn or those?
I was racing around trying to. I actually made a replica of the little bighorn, because the rolling handles, same thing. They're not that easy to get in Australia, or at least they take a while to get. So I before the competition was trying to make my own tools and just do things that were similar to what the lifts were going to be in the competition. Because that information was already out, I thought, well, let me try and make something as close as I can to what should be in competition, and then I'll give me my best chance. But yeah, I didn't have any sort of, all the grip stuff I had prior to then was just around arm wrestling training. So I did have some rolling handles and stuff, which I could actually train grip directly, but no, I didn't have any of the actual handles that were in the comp. No, not the big horn, no.
Do you happen, like you mentioned, like this little big horn replica? Is that one in the background, like hanging?
Yes, that's the one hanging. That's it.
Good you show it to me. I would love to see it, because
Yeah, sure.
I am a fabricator as well here in Chile, and I have made some replicas too. So it's super interesting to me.
So it meets the same specs as the little big horn. 3 inches. I think that's 1.5 inches. I can't quite remember,
Yeah.
but it's a a piece of steel, which is I think it's about a 7-degree taper. I can't quite remember, but fortunately, I work in a workshop with lathes and mills, and I'm able to make a few things, and they're not too complex as long as you can get the dimensions of somebody who has the handle.
Man, I need to show you the replica I made, because it's like some, how to say it, like a lost brother, because it's super like similar looking. Let me look at it. It is right here. It's really well. This is the gym. I have everything right here. My
Nice
pegboard, pegboard as well, with the grippers.
Many grippers, I like it.
Yes, I have. Maybe we can stop right here. It's like the first time I show them. It's on a live interview, but I
That's
have
impressive.
many.
I like it.
They are all rated by Canon PowerWorks, because when I wanted to host competitions, the team wanted to have grippers right here. So we did block set reps and sent the ones that were not rated to Canon. So these are all rated grippers for competitions. So let me get back into the seat, and I'm going to show you the, let's say, the Chilean replica of the Little Big Horn. It's this one. It's basically virtually the same that you made.
Yep.
I have a guy made it for me with the specs of the Little Big Horn, but same story here. It's not easy to get the equipment. It's expensive, and it's really slow. Actually, one time when I bought the Napalm Sniper, the guy from the post office had a mistake confusing my address with a street with the same name in another county. So it never arrived to my home. It arrived to somewhere else, and they never let me know that it was somewhere else. And then it was like, this guy never received the package. We're going to send it back to America. And I was like, fuck. Man, thanks to Lucas Raymond, I was able to receive it back. But man, they can be like really inefficient here in the post office.
That's I ordered a grab ball because we had one in a competition just recently, and it took about 8 weeks to get here, and I got it about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks from the competition, and I was desperately trying to see what my numbers were to figure out what where I could try and strategize in the competition. And you were just a bit of a disadvantage when you're outside of the North America, I feel like. And it's not impossible, but like you said, it's expensive and it takes a while to get some of the things. And there are so many tools that are used throughout competitions. It'd be very, very expensive to get all of them. Fortunately, there's a few people in Australia who have a great collection. I have a good friend down in Melbourne who's got just about everything. Same in Sydney. So I certainly want to get around a bit more and try some handles, but I'll slowly get a collection myself of a mixture of homemade ones and brand ones as well.
Excellent. Since you're like into fabrication, I wanted to show you. I have right here. This is going to be a future rolling handle.
Nice.
This is like the iron piece and the, how do you say?
Yeah, nice roller bearing.
the bearing, you know?
Bearing, yep.
And this is a final form rolling handle for a client. This one rolls really freely. I don't know if you can see, but it's
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
still rolling. It's a really good one. My main motivation to make these tools, it's because it's super expensive. So I feel you. It's, man.
Yeah, it's
Not being in the US, it's like really expensive to me. I think I saw that you have these like mini little bighorns. I want to know that story because they were so many.
so this. What happened was that we had a competition just recently in Canberra, and
Yes.
there was 4 lifts. One was originally going to be a 3-inch axle, which turned out to be we changed it to make it to Andrew's axle, which was great.
Yes.
And then it was grab ball, napalm nightmare, single overhand lift, and then what we called the mandrel, because Joe Hodgson, who I know you're familiar with,
Yeah.
he had a tool which he got from a blacksmith company, and it's designed to use with an anvil and make 1-inch circular things. That's why it's called the 1-inch mandrel. And that was going to be in the competition. And I thought, well, I'd really like to train with, either the same tool, and couldn't buy one from the website where he bought it from. There's none available. So I reached out to Joe and just asked, what were the dimensions that were of his one, and knowing that I could just sort of make a replica to help me train and get a bit of data before I went into the competition. I thought, well, I'll make a few more and see if anyone else would like to have a crack at training before the comp too. And what ended up happening was I made the actual one that was in the competition, and then everybody else who got one, could train on basically the same thing. So it ended up being not bad, and it's an interesting lift. It's very different to the Bighorn, but the size is considerably different. So it feels almost better in a way, but at the same time, it's also somewhat uncomfortable. So I mean, I'm not trying to add tools into the collection necessarily, because there are a lot of tools already out there, but it's something that I think was fun for the competition, and everyone enjoyed lifting with it and training with it. So I don't know if it'll make an appearance again, but if not, it's a fun little training tool.
And how much can people lift on the mandrel?
So it varied on the day. I think I lifted the most with 123 kilograms. I think it was 123.8.
Ooh.
And Joe Hodgson came second. I think he was around maybe 90 kilos. And under that was 88 kilos. That was 1, 2, 3. It takes a lot of squeezing force. It's a very high, like you got to squeeze it very, very hard, like any vertical lift, I guess. But I find if you can squeeze hard, you can just move more weight. But it was interesting to see where people are at, because when I first used it, it was basically the same numbers as I was producing with the Bighorn. Like almost, It was actually identical, about 96 to 100 kilos. They were sort of like for like. And then as I used it more, I sort of understood it a bit better, and I played around with how I hold it and how I would set it on the pin. And, by doing those things and just changing a few technical things, plus just using it and getting a bit more familiar with it, I managed to get the numbers up, around 120. So it was quite interesting to sort of see the evolution of that so quickly before the competition.
Man, it's super like impressive to hear like Joe was like 90 something kilos and you 120. It's like big difference, man.
I have no doubt Joe had more in him, but it was just one of those things. I don't know. I just felt comfortable for me when I lock something in like that with a vertical grip. I do like the vertical grips because I have obviously with the grippers you generate a fair bit of crushing force, and if you don't have that sort of crushing force, the vertical grips really sort of slip away from you, because there's only so much that technical lifting can get you. At the end of the day, you've got to squeeze it. So
I remember that, well, you were mentioning that your first competition was the Australian Grip Championship.
spot on.
I wanted to know, well, yesterday I was listening to my episode with Isaac to like catch some interesting data, and
Yep.
Which were your best lifts on that
So
day?
I don't have anything written down here, sorry, but I'll get close to the memory. We had, as far as the actual lift, there was a double overhand, so the napalm 9 pair, double 2 3/8 rolling handle. Then there was the 3x4-inch Napalm Nightmare kind of blocks. After that was the little bighorn, and then there was a brand new tool which was introduced and was used in North America I think the following day or close to it, which was the double shallow inch pinch. So those were the 4 lifts in the order. My lift on the 2 3/8 Napalm Nightmare was 185 kilograms. I should have gone to 190 kilograms, but I was too eager, and Luke and I both said we'd go 195, and I didn't quite get the lift, unfortunately, and Luke, as strong as he is, he got to 195, and then I think he pulled 200 as well. So that was, you familiar with Luke Reynolds?
Of course, Luke Blue Mountains. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So I hadn't met Luke before then or anyone, and it was really, really quite interesting to sort of see all that unfold. And, Luke's super strong and super nice. We just kind of had to have a crack at it to see where it landed. And Luke took it to, I think it was just shy or just on 200 kilograms, which was crazy. And I managed to get 185, which I was pretty happy with. It was, I guess, a PB. My rolling handle that I've been practicing on, it has bearings, so it was a little bit harder than the actual Napalm one. So my lift ended up being a bit higher on that, so I was quite happy. But the 2 3/8 handles, it's getting thick. That's 60 mil. That's really getting thick, Sorry, go.
No, you go, please.
I was just going to start with the second one, but if you had any questions about the first one, we'll go back.
No, go ahead, please.
So the second lift, as mentioned, was the 3x4-inch blocks on the Napalm handle. And yes. I didn't have anything to train for that. I have a single 3x3 block. So I have a little bit of an idea, but my hand reaches down past the 3-inch section, so I couldn't really grab it properly.
Okay.
I made a 3x4-inch Saxon bar, and I was training on that to try and see where things are at, but it is a bit different when the weight's below you versus kind of on a barbell. So I kind of had an idea where I was going to be at on that. I think I maxed out at 122.5 or maybe 125, around about there. And Luke edged me again on that one as well. He lifted the next weight above me and may have had more in the tank, but I think strategically stopped it there. So Luke and I were 1-2 again. So that was quite interesting and fun. And those pinch block ones, they're very different. I think there's a lot of technique that goes into helping get a few more kilos out of that. And Joe's been helping me sort of understand those pinching sort of style lifts a bit more. So I look forward to doing them. I'm going to start training with the Saxon a lot more in the future. So excellent. I look forward to sort of learning that one, and hopefully one day I'll get to have a crack at that Napalm Nightmare one again to see if the numbers have gone up. But yeah, those pinching ones are really sort of something else versus obviously you grab something or you pinch it. I find there's a lot more you can do with a pinch versus just grabbing something around. So I think with time, I look forward to getting a bit higher on that one. But for now, I'm just going to try and up the numbers on the Saxon bar. They'll obviously carry over as well.
Excellent. And what about the Little Big Horn? How was your first experience?
It was it was a good learning curve for the competition. I had a bit of a strategy going in there, and to my demise, I didn't follow it. So I had a spreadsheet which I was following with lifts which were kind of in line with how I warmed up at home and tried to go for a max. But on the day, my Little Big Horn was basically new, so it was pretty shiny. It didn't really have any chalk or rust. So my numbers were about 96 kilograms on that one. And when I got to the competition, I saw the bighorn that we're using, and it obviously been used, it's seasoned, it had a bit of chalk, a little bit more texture. And in my head, I thought, oh, you know what, I'll actually be able to go a bit higher on this one. And I mucked up when I decided to jump in. I went maybe 50, 60, and I think 85. And I thought what I'll do is I'll save myself and go a bit higher. I should be able to get over 100 here. And then I went in at 100 and I just couldn't make it to the crossbar. It slipped out of my hand. So unfortunately, that put me back at my last lift, which was only 85. So that was a good learning curve for me. I knew I could have got more than that, but obviously you fail a lift, you can't go backwards. So I learned from that mistake. And I think on the day I might have been good for 95, maybe 97.5, but I haven't done the Little Bighorn since then, so I'm be interested to see where things are at. But I do like those vertical lifts. They suit me, I think.
Excellent. Those are good numbers, like for the first time. Whoa. And what about the double inch pinch? How was your experience
So
with that?
that was again interesting. I made a replica one to try and see what it's like because it's such a I don't know, interesting lift, and there is a lot of technique you can use to help edge your head a little bit on that one too. It was I think it was a first for everybody. I don't know who had any experience with it before. I don't even know if anyone had any replicas that they used. So it was a bit tricky or a bit interesting to see kind of where everyone was at. And it kind of, as it happened in a competition, we got to a certain point and we didn't quite know where we were going to max out. And from about 45 kilos on, everyone was just sort of going small increments. And there was 3 of us who had equal first in that one. Luke was one of them, and another guy, Matt, who's quite strong in that lift. Absolutely. And being such a small little pinch, I think it helps to have, a certain hand anatomy versus maybe a bigger hand isn't ideal. But I know Joe was there and helping us with a bit of technique on that one, how you can pinch it and twist and few things. But anyway, that was a good fun lift because it got to a certain point where we were all just going up by 2.5 kilograms, and there was 3 of us there listening every time. I nearly got 55 kilograms. I was just about an inch off the crossbar, but my left hand let go, unfortunately. So we all ended up on 52.5 as 3 equal firsts. So that was a fun one.
Nice. So on that first contest, you placed second, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes, correct. That's spot on.
Second on your first competition, and right now you were the champion of the competition of the Grip Fest, right?
Yes, correct. The competition just held. Yep, the Ultra Strong Fest, the Strong Fest 2, the Capital Grip Challenge, which is held in Canberra. Yeah, I was fortunate to win that one. Would have been great to have Luke there, but he was busy. He was just back from the shore, and then I know he went up to the Highland Games, and I think he competed in that. So it'd have been great to have Luke there to see where we were kind of at. It would have been good to push each other, and Luke's phenomenal to compete with because he certainly makes you level up, and I think it would have been great to see where he was at. But I was happy to still take away the win, and I actually took 2 world records as well. So it was a good day.
Were there like the world records? I think I read that it was on the 2-inch Napalm Sniper and on the Andrews Axle. How much did you lift it on those?
So the Andrews Axle was the first lift of the day, and it was. I had an idea in my head of where I wanted to be at with that one because I made a replica for myself and I was training at home, and I knew there's a GSI record which Eric holds of 175 kilograms. Eric was saying, and there's also of who the axle's named after. Can't pronounce his last name, but Andrew. He has the record that's on the Fat Bastard Barbell Company's website, their list of 180 kilograms. And I thought, I want to beat 180 kilograms. That's my goal. And I really wanted to get to over 400 pounds. So that was 82.5 kilograms roughly. And at home, I'd been training and I'd been getting up to 170, and that would have been feeling pretty good. And then I just I left it there. I didn't push it too much during training. And then a bit closer to the competition, I went a bit higher and I got to 182.5. And that felt okay. I'm like, you know what, maybe I can get 185 on this. And on the day, I had a strategy and I went in. I warmed up at the regular deadlift first as conventional, and then the competition started. And I think I went in at maybe 80, 100, 130, 150, 175, because 175 got me the record. And then I thought, if I get the record, I'll give myself a chance to go up again. And I thought I may as well go above my PB of 182.5, and I was successful at 185 kilograms, which is 407 pounds.
Nice. And I am curious, the bar that you used on the tournament, was it like made in Australia, or was it the FBBC original and bought from
No, so that one I actually made I made that one as well. I was in contacts with so in Australia, a few people in the background were already trying to get an Andrews axle in Australia, and somebody was
Okay.
going to make it. But because I work in an engineering shop, I said, "Hey, do you mind if I have a crack?" And I ended up making it. And we liaised with, I think it was Eric and Jed in America and Canada, and we sent them photos. I sent them a video of me making it, all the dimensions, and we made it basically to the specs that they were happy with. And yeah, they were happy for us to use that as a replica Andrews axle. So it was really good to get Australia sort of in the GSI list on that lift, because it's quite a short lift. Sorry, short list. There aren't a lot of people on that list as it is already. And it was a good opportunity for Australia to sort of have a crack at it. And fortunately, yeah, we were able to make it, and now we're happy for us to use it. So it all worked out really well.
And how heavy did it ended up, like the bar itself, like 40 kilograms? How heavy is it?
No, I made the bar exactly 20 kilograms. So how I
20.
designed it, how I made it just like an Olympic barbell. That way it's easy to track weights. I think the Andrews
Oh,
axle typically is 17.5 kilos. But for lift tracking purposes, I figured if the barbell weighed 20 kilograms, that would make things a bit easier, and it wouldn't affect the overall result. And, Jed and Eric were happy with that too. So it worked out well.
man, I like it. I like it that you made the replica and that it serves the purpose, like having it weighing 20 kilograms. Excellent. It's super good.
Yeah. So
I am thinking of making some axles here, but the idea of having it weighing 20, I like it. I love it.
it's a good round number, and I think obviously with regular Olympic barbells weighing that, it just made sense. And I figured out how to make it weigh that based on steel weights, and the manufacturing process. I added a little bit here and there to make sure it weighed exactly 20 kilograms, and it was a good process. It worked out in the end, and was really happy with the result. And I probably end up making myself another one, I think, because that one now lives in Canberra. The host for the competition bought the barbell from me, and it's now at his gym, which is great because it could be used in any competition, hopefully in the future.
So maybe you can start your own fabricating business for grip in Australia. It will be super
You
great.
never know, mate. There's not much over here, so it'd be good to have somebody making something.
Yeah, but maybe if some other Australian needs some equipment, I think they may reach to you, because it sounds like you good at good stuff. That little bit corny is really nice. So if I were there, man.
No, I'm happy to.
100%.
I've already made a couple of things for a few people, and I'm certainly happy to do that. And as you know, we've got the constraints on tools here, so yeah, it's great for me to be able to make for myself, but I'm certainly more than happy to help other people out too. So.
I wanted to know about the 2-inch Naples Nightmare one-handed. Did you have the chance to know where you how much were you able to lift beforehand, or was it a surprise to you? Because I haven't tried that diameter ever for a lift, so I'm not sure how will it be for me or for us in Chile.
It is tricky because the napalm tools, they are made a little bit different to how I made my own replicas. When I say replica, I mean just a 50mm rolling handle. Because I use ball bearings like yourself have recently used it. It actually makes it a bit more of a tricky lift because it rotates the same under any load. But when you have steel through steel, like those designs, the load changes the friction a little bit on the handle. So it doesn't put as much tax on the wrist as the ones with the ball bearings. And I did have the chance to lift with an actual Napalm Nightmare branded handle at a friend's gym, and just messing around in his gym, I ended up lifting 122 kilos, which I knew it would secure me the record, because at the time it was 118, I think. So I thought, well, the handle I had at home, I couldn't lift that much. It was just because of the nature of the rolling handle. And I kind of figured out what the difference was, and I kept training on my handle because it's the same size. And then when I got to competition, I had a plan, and I knew I wanted to go in and beat that record. And to my surprise, during the competition, because what I did was I had a strategy of using my right and then my left, and then to try and save my right hand, which is a little bit stronger than my left. because I wanted to break the record with my right if I had to. And as I was working my way up in the weights, I got to the 119.5, and I got that with my left hand, which secured me the record. And I was really quite surprised because my left is typically at least 10% or around 10% behind my right. I've closed that gap a little bit now, and during the competition, I got that, which I was happy with, but I made a mistake and I thought, well, what can I get with my right? So I added 10 kilograms to the next lift, and I lifted 129.5 kilos to within about an inch of the crossbar, and it slipped out of my hands. And then I still had a bit of time, so I reset and I grabbed it again, and I lifted it to within about a millimeter of the crossbar, and I just didn't hit it. So I made a bit of a mistake there. I should have gone 125 kilos, and that would have, got me a little bit higher on that lift, but that's just my lack of experience in competition. I should never have gone 10 kilos when I'm, so close to my max, but that's lesson learned. I know I'm very close to it, so hopefully we see that handle again in the future, and I can try and get that 130 kilograms if I'm lucky, but if not, I'll get 125 next time.
Excellent. That's super good. I think I'm going to get one of those Napalm Nightmare, like the single handle, to try and see what we can do over here, because it looks like a really fun tool, and considering that it's different than bearings rolling handle, it's going to change things up for us here. And
it's good to have, I think, having lifts that are tracked by GSI is really good. I think that increases the interest a little bit, and if you can get yourself on a leaderboard, it's always great for everybody. And obviously you need to have the exact implement for it. So I reckon, if you can get one down there, great idea. The other rolling handles are really good to train with, but just know that there is a difference in the total numbers. Probably lift more with the napalm.
We are going to find out in the future. So
look forward to it.
Henry, I want to know, now that you have done 2 successful competitions, which are your goals for the future in Gripsport?
King Kong's the next one on the horizon. So that's in October, and here it's on the 19th, I think it is. So I've got a friend who's hosting that down in Melbourne, which is about 3 hours away from me. So looking forward to that. I'm going to be training and focusing obviously the lifts that are in that one. So that's the immediate one. That'll be this year. And next year I don't have any plans locked in. I know that Isaac will, or somebody will hold the Australian Nationals again, which would be great. The Canberra competition, which we just had, will be probably on again, I'd say. But my goals are certainly to try and see where I can go outside of the country. I'd like to get across to America and have a crack at a competition over there. It is tricky to do that, but it's certainly a goal of mine to get across the USA and have a chance to compete in a competition there.
Which one would you like to make? Because there are plenty of competitions every month in America.
All of them? I don't know. I don't know. Some of the big ones are obviously, you've got what's next year with the Arnolds. Then you've got the Short, which was just recently on, and then there's the World Championships later in the year. So I don't know, but any of those would be unbelievable. You never know.
Have you been to America before?
No, I haven't.
Oh, then it's going to be like the full experience, like going to the US and competing. Oh, it's going to be great for you. I hope you can make it like sooner than later. Maybe like,
I'm certainly going to try next year. Like I said, if I can get to one international competition next year, I'll be super happy. So, and America holds so many of them. I know there's a few in Europe, and that's definitely not off the list either. But America would be great because there's such a huge population. Well, not huge, but compared to Australia, there's a big grip community there. I'd love to meet the people in there, and really, some of the strongest in the world are there, and it'd be great to sort of stand by those guys and have a crack next to them as well.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest community in grip these days. Yeah, they have so many athletes in so many states and the most competitions. So you can't go wrong with that. Not at all.
And have you competed in the United States yet?
Yes, actually,
Yeah,
my first competition was in the US. I went to New York, and I
nice.
competed with maybe you know Tim Butler or Chas
I've heard the name. Yep,
Strange.
yep.
Yes, I knew the guys. Also, Alex Guia, he was the host. Man, it was such a good experience with coffee, bagels, pizza, brownies, and man, they were
On a
they
holiday.
were super good hosts. And I saw like really huge lifts, and they gave me the
Yeah,
tips. Actually,
yep.
that's the experience that kickstarted Gripsport Latino and me
Yeah,
hosting
nice.
competitions here in Chile as well, because the experience was super good, and I want to get to go back there maybe next year or the
Yep.
following. I don't know, but yeah, I have to go back and meet in person everyone that I am interviewing. So there's a mission over there, you
You've
know.
certainly interviewed a lot of people. Like it'd be really good to get over there, knowing so many people through the internet and through the grip community, and then having a chance to compete with them, meet them in person would be great.
Yes, exactly. And I wanted to know, Henry, is there any, like, so far, any grip sport athlete that you look up to, like someone who is like, let's say, like a hero or someone you would like to share the platform with?
Um, I'm so new to the sport. I don't even know everybody yet. I don't think, but certainly some of the people, in Australia, Luke Reynolds, he's absolutely, Australia's best at the moment, and he's somebody who's I'm great to talk to. He's helped put me in touch with people. He's had advice. So I certainly respect Luke for that. And, hopefully one day I'll be a step above him in the podium, but you never know. But just standing next to Luke on the podium, certainly a goal of mine, definitely. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, meeting some of the people, like I recently at the Arnolds last year, you got like Kim Johansson from Sweden and Carl and Ode. Those names to me are certainly huge names, and I've known about them before I was even, in grip. So meeting those guys and competing with them would be amazing. Martin Lissies, anyone from that community, there's such big names in there. I'd be so happy to meet any of them. I don't have anybody necessarily that, I mean, I look up to them all, I guess, in a way. And I certainly would like to try and take bits and pieces from all of them as far as they all train, because they all are very different individuals and they train differently. And I like watching how they do things and trying to figure out, what suits me. And I don't know. I look forward to meeting them all, and then hopefully, they're all as nice as they seem. I'm sure they will be, because everybody so far in the grip community has been great.
Excellent. Reaching one of the final questions of our lovely interview. I'd like to know, Henry, if you had to host a competition yourself, which
Yep.
could be like the main disciplines?
I would have probably a regular axle. I think the 50 millimeter axle deadlift is a real display of grip and, just overall strength. If not only do you have to be strong to hold on to it, you've got to be strong to stand up with it. So I think that's such a good lift to show your overall strength. And the 50 mil handle feels relatively comfortable or uncomfortable depending on the size of your hands, but it's not like a 60 mil or a 3 inch where it's, uncomfortable for everybody. So I think that's a good lift. So that would be a thick bar, probably like a grandfather clock vertical lift, something I haven't actually had the chance to lift that in competition yet. I've made a replica of that as well, and I've had a few good lifts with that at home, and I like the feel of that one. So like that would be good to have a thick bar, a vertical, something rolling, because there's a different element to how the rolling handle feels versus an axle or just a thick bar in general. Single or double handed, I don't mind. I think the single handed ones are interesting because people get to use their stronger side, which they might have a more dominant side. So maybe I think a good handle for that would be, we'll go with 2 3/8. That's 60 mil. I think that's a good size to really kind of find out who has, the overall finger strength, because that puts it so far out in your fingers. It's very different to sort of clenching it close to yourself. And that would be number 3. For number 4, we'll go with a square bar. We'll go with a pinch. So maybe just a regular Saxon bar. I think those are such of the core lifts that I imagine that would be great to see. And it shows a really sort of a broad spectrum of someone's grip strength. You can't really hide. If you're good at one thing, you've got to kind of be good at all things. That'll highlight kind of your strengths and weaknesses. And I really feel like that's a good round palette for it, to suit most people. So that's what I would choose.
And do you like the last man standing format, or like a 3 or 4 attempts format? Which would you go with?
Having only been in competitions twice now, it was last man standing rising bar for the weight. And that's a good format, but I also think it's exciting too if you have like the medleys. I've recently seen some of the medleys, and obviously there was one at the shore, or a couple at the shore. And the medleys are interesting because it's sort of a different level of strength. Again, it's not necessarily outright power. There's a bit of endurance there. There's a bit of technique. So I haven't been a part of one of those, so I don't know what it would be like to be in that sort of circumstance in a competition. But I think it'd be really fun. And I think it'd be good for the crowd as well. A lift for reps, or going up in certain weights in a lift, like a medley, I think would be quite interesting. And having never done it, like I said, I'm not quite sure, but I reckon it would be fun.
Excellent. Henry, do you happen to have any questions for me or about Gripsport Latino in general?
Well, I was going to ask you actually how you sort of came to be the person you are now, doing it in South America like you are. You kind of semi-answered that before, and having been to America and trained, and then it sort of inspired you to sort of start a community online down in South America. When did that start? When did you first do that?
Going to America or starting the community? I didn't understand.
Oh, actually, well, both. When did you go to America, and then shortly after, when after did you start your sort of Gripsport Latino? And
well, I went to America in 2022 in September. It was actually 2 years ago, more or less. And I did the competition. It was skilled hands too. And I had this experience where Alex was like, man, opening his home gym to a stranger from Latin America. So it was like so generous of him, and they were teaching me everything. And I went with my wife because we were on holiday, and man, it was super nice to go there to receive all the advice, all the tips. And that was like the moment when I got into the GSI ranking. So it was a huge motivation for me as well to at least have my country there, because it took a while to ask for the guys, hey, put our flag on the ranking. It happened this year, so it is like, man, nice. super good for us. So coming back from that trip, I was like, I have a personal account on Instagram as well, but most of the people that follow me, it's like regular people who's not like so into sport or so into strength sport, like lifting weird objects from the ground. So, and I wanted to like separate things, like for all friends who are not into sport, it's going to be my personal account, and for family, parents, cousins, I don't know, and for family pictures, which I don't want like everybody to see, like silly co-workers or douchebags, So this is my personal account, but I want to like spread the word of grip. What can I do? And I was like, there is an organization of arm lifting in Chile already. It's called Armlifting Chile, and it's run by Bruno. He is another competitor, and he has it. He's the president of it. So I wasn't going to do like, oh, there's armlifting, I am going to do Gripsport Chile. No, I wasn't like that. So I was like, what can I do? Oh, maybe Gripsport Latino, Latin America, because there wasn't a platform that said everything about grip in Spanish. So I was like, I like English. I like to do this. Maybe I could start like talking about the rolling handle, about the blobs, inch dumbbells, everything in Spanish. Let's give it a try. And Also, I wanted to separate like my personal profile from the sports section of my life. So
Yep.
that's how it started. And man, from that moment, everything like came naturally. It wasn't planned. Like the podcast itself was like, well, I don't know if you know about this guy, but there was a guy on Italia that fake all the gripper closes, but back then we didn't knew. His name is
No, I'm not
Tiziano.
aware.
Oh man, that's a funny story. But yeah, Tiziano was this guy because he was like 66 kilograms and he could close the number 40. It was like
Ah,
everybody's size was over there. He ended up being fake, but
yeah.
we used to chat a lot. And he was like, "Hey, let's have a conversation," and we were chatting like for hours. And one of those days, he said like, "Hey, maybe we could do a live stream." We did a live stream, and after the live stream, people from the grip community was like, "Hey, I love your podcast," and I was like, "Oh, I didn't know I have one." I would love to see, I don't know, Jet Johnson in it, Eric Hussein, invite Joe Hodgson, Zach Mullins, and all the big names. And I was like, "Hey, I should do this." And I started doing this, and it got some momentum. And then I used to have another logo, and then I was like, maybe I should invest and hire a designer that makes this like a nice logo. And making grip tools was something like everybody asked me where I got my grip tools, and I was like, "Yeah, sure, Iron Man, Arm Assassin, Strength Shop, FBVC. You can buy anything for $50, and the shipping is going to be 60 more." And they were like, "Fuck you, I'm not buying that amount of money for a grip tool I've never touched." And that was a good idea because I thought maybe I should start doing public trainings in squares so people can go and try the grip tools.
That's also, a good idea.
Yeah, it's super good. Actually, that idea is something I took from Joe, because he said that he went like to public places with the bluffs or with the training stuff, and he was like, "Man, no one comes. Why? Because why don't they come? They won't have any opportunity to be in front of the fat man or the inch dumbbell." And I was like, "Man, he's right. But I could do the same here in Chile, and maybe people will jump in and join me." And that's how the team like shaped itself. So and about the equipment, one of my best friends, he's a welder, and he does a bit of everything. And I told him, "Hey, teach me how to weld, and I can build everything." And now these days I have done Saxon bars, rolling handles, vertical bars, pinch blocks. The only thing I haven't like tried to do yet, it's bluffs and inch dumbbells. I would love to someday. Chile is not as industrialized as other countries, so maybe there's a possibility, but I still don't know how to do it. But yeah, that's like
tricky, those ones.
That's like the main story of Gripsport Latino. And right now I expect to do like the online shop soon, like to have like an automated way to do the e-commerce. And I have been focused on doing the competition. I am hosting King Kong on the 19th as well.
Nice.
On the 19th and on the 26th, I am doing another, because you can do like multiple days with different people. Of course, you are not allowed to compete twice. Like the first day, "Oh, I lifted so little, I'm going to try the second." No, not allowed. But yeah, that's how it's working. And like you said, I don't know what's going to happen on 2025, because, well, I didn't have a job like for most of this year, like from January to August. And I started a new job recently, and I am super exhausted, super tired. So I have to like gather a lot of strength to continue and move forward with the activity that I was doing, because I did the podcast, the social media, the
Yeah.
gatherings, and I was training myself to try to break records. And like, I am currently 95 kilograms, so trying to be
Yep.
good at the 105, like, because there are many beasts on that
Bit different,
weight
yeah.
class. Man, Zach Mullins, Ben Helms, I don't know, Matt Cow,
Joe.
was Joe, man, Joe, I haven't get the chance to catch up on his thick bar strength. My best rolling handle at home was like 87 kilograms. On our last competition, I could pull 86, and Joe can do like 100 plus. It's like, oh man, I have work to do, a lot of work to do.
His strength's inspiring, and it's really amazing to see what he can do with certain things, because it just doesn't seem like he should be able to. But he's very smart. He's very technical. He's obviously very strong, and he's good to talk to because he's so willing to share information to anybody who's interested. So yeah, he's been a real sort of good. Sorry, he's been a real kind of cornerstone, I think, of Australian grip, and just such a wealth of knowledge, and happy to pass it on. And I've learned a lot from Joe, even just from the few times I've met him in conversations that we've had. But his strength is just crazy. You watch him do some things and he just doesn't make sense.
It's amazing. Yes, I would love to meet him someday, and well, all of the team Australia as well. As a curious like information, Isaac told me that, man, Pancho, you should come to the contest. And I was like, oh man, you catch me off guard, because I had no job and no money to buy the ticket, but I really wanted to. Well, that I am proudly wearing my Australia t-shirt.
I saw that. Nice.
Yes, it's a really good one. I always try to use it when I am doing my deadlift, because it has the deadlift kangaroo right here. It's like, man, I gotta exactly. And with the red plates, trying to put as much red plates on the bar as I can,
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
Henry, the last words belong to you. Which final message would you like to share with the grip community, with the Gripsport Latino people, and to the world? What would you like to share?
I would just like to say thanks to you for having me. I really appreciate having the opportunity to talk to you and share a bit of information to whoever's listening. I certainly hope to meet you in person one day and cross paths with you, hopefully in a competition or wherever for that matter. So I look forward to just, expanding my friends within the grip community, because everyone's so approachable and nice and willing to share information. So I hope to as I learn, be able to pass on, and increase people's knowledge. If anyone's ever got any questions, I might not be the best person to ask, but I'm certainly happy to, provide any information I've got. So yeah, if anyone's ever interested, please do reach out. But for now, I'll just keep my head down and training, and not sure what next year is going to bring, but I'm certainly going to try and bring whatever I can to any competition I can get to, and hopefully more records will be on the horizon too. But let's just hopefully I can keep training and be injury free for that matter, because that's probably one of the most important things. But no, just want to say thank you, mate. I appreciate your time and the opportunity to come on and say good day, and to everybody else listening. So yeah, thank you.
Man, I wanted to thank you as well, because time is a really valuable thing. I know that you come from the shift from the long shift, and man, getting to know more about you, because you are one of the new talents from Australia who has been surprising us these past years. It's like, man, we really appreciate to have like such an inspiration over there, because well, one of my friends, he used to live in Australia, Pablo. He's a competitor here, and he always tells me like wonders of the sport culture that you have over there. So it's like, man, super good to have a chat with you, and I always get like the best time talking to friends in Australia. So it was a pleasure of mine, and I hope this next year gives you many PRs and with healthy joints, because man,
thank you.
Being injured, it's crappy, but I know that you will have the right guide and the right partners, and man, you're going to be good and keep surprising us. So
thank you.
to-
No, I'm happy to
to
chat
everyone-
anytime. I really appreciate it.
Yes, exactly. And I hope we meet soon. And to all the guys who are watching the episode, thanks for your time. If you reach like this time of the episode, and
Thank you.
see you in another episode of Gripsport Latino. Goodbye, my friends.